The Connection Economy focuses on leveraging relationships in today's marketplace and shows how companies, think Uber, Airbnb, and Facebook, have succeeded by connecting people to people and other resources instead of merely growing conventional assets and inventory. And there was no one better qualified to talk about alternatives to convention than our guest speaker. Thank you so much, Bonin, for coming to engage us tonight. You do like cutting it close. He took the red. I got here this morning at 6:30, and I think you're leaving at 6:30, so he never sleeps. When you're young, you can do that. Now, I'm really excited about tonight's program, and I'm even more excited to be introducing our guest speaker for the evening, Bonin Bao. I met Bonin at the beginning of the year when we were brought together for a television show, as Steve mentioned, on CNBC. Executive produced by LeBron James, a business reality show you may have watched, Cleveland Hustles. Bonin was personally asked by LeBron to lead the charge on Cleveland Hustles, to host and facilitate, but most importantly, to fulfill LeBron James's vision to revitalize Cleveland one neighborhood at a time. It's funny, when I heard Bonin speak about this, when LeBron first asked him, he was told it was going to be a 2-week gig. Okay, 8 months later, we're still filming. We're done, almost. Now, Bonin had the task of carrying the show on his shoulders to deal with first 24 businesses, culled down to 8, to a final 4 businesses, to take to completion and openings. But lastly, he also had the responsibility to work with 4 Cleveland investors, sight unseen, to facilitate the workings of their relationship with their chosen businesses, and to act as a guide and consulting in evaluating the tasks. Now, that's no small assignment. I thought I had a lot of work on me. Well, Bonin had it tenfold. It was a long and arduous journey, but it was really well worth the outcome for Cleveland. Now, at this point, let me just take a minute and save you some time for the Q&A later, because I'm sure this is a question that's going to be asked. So we can get this out of the way right now. And that is, who was Bonin's favorite investor to work with? Now, Bonin is from New York. I have aptly blessed him an honorary Clevelander, and rightly so. Bonin has experienced the 4 seasons of the year in Cleveland. Cold. He started in sub-freezing temperatures and ended with the heat of summer. But he also came here so much, I think he loves Cleveland. Now, Bonin has an abundance of energy, enthusiasm, vim, and vigor that I cannot describe. It was so much fun working with him. And the times between filming, where we did have a chance to talk off camera, I found him engaging, funny, warm, and most of all, brilliant. Bonin has led an interesting life and has been in many different genres of business. He is very well connected to the business pulse and ground. His many connections you saw him accelerate to promising results. Boxed, LA Libations, Gwyneth Paltrow, and South by Southwest. Bonin really delivers. Talking about Bonin, he is considered a transformative activator, and I really love these adjectives to describe him. His passion for the new and nascent, which is beginning to form or develop, as well as his expertise in the mobile and media marketplace, has led to the launch of the first 2 corporate accelerators, PepsiCo 10 and Mobile Futures. Now, I found this the most fascinating, but one aspect of Bonin's involvement. At South by Southwest, he used 3D printing technology to create a customized Oreo cookie in real time. Now, think about that for a second. Now, Bonin is known for leading some of the largest and most innovative global media investments across digital, television, print, and outdoors, which we will get to in our discussion later. Hint, I'm going to ask you about the parachuteless jump. He's created partnerships with Paramount, ABC, Facebook, Twitter, and YouTube, among others, and conducted the first ever branded campaigns with Instagram, Foursquare, and Radian 6. Bonin is one of the foremost awarded marketing executives in his field and one of the youngest C-suite executives in a Fortune 50 company. He's one of the top mobile marketers in the world, being named as Mobile Marketer of the Year by MMA. He has helped reinvigorate the traditional marketing by combining innovative tech through breakthrough brand campaigns, including Oreo, Honey Maid, Pepsi, Gatorade, and many more billion-dollar brands. And now he has up-and-comers next to include Groundswell, Cleveland Bagels, Fount, and Old City Soda. He's written a book, Text Me, and it's available for purchase online. Fascinating read and so on target, combining real applications to real emotions. Gary Vee, who is an entrepreneur and marketing leader, has said of the book, insightful, in the trenches look at how business can transform themselves with digital and how individuals are having their lives transformed by mobile. Very true. And Bonin does respond to your text. He's crazy, but that's his real number. And what's interesting with the book is it's interactive. He has placed questions throughout that he would like you to answer and text him. I could go on about the attributes of my friend Bonin, and he does have the chops to back it all up. Bonin is a fascinating, charming, talented, gifted, and successful entrepreneur who will engross you with his commentary and insight. Now, our own Morris Wheeler told me he saw you in Florida for one of your business conferences recently, and he was taken aback by how captivating and fascinating it was, and he's really sorry he's not here to see this insight. Now, our own Morris Wheeler told me he saw you in Florida for one of your business conferences recently, and there was so much more I could say about him, but we will have time to delve into more topics when I get to ask you the questions. Now, Jim Ackerman from CNBC told me to make you sweat. Maverick Carter was not able to be here. He's not in town, although he and a few more people that I reached out to from the show send their best wishes. You're going to get the chance now to see why LeBron picked Bonin personally to lead our Cleveland Hustle show. You'll see another facet to his dazzling and magnificent business persona. But I'm sure you're as anxious to hear from him as I am. So please welcome home our honorary Clevelander with a warm Cleveland welcome, with a big round of applause for our guest speaker tonight, Bonin Bao.
As soon as she leaves the stage, she forgets who I am. I am very excited to be here. She's right. They said, look, come to Cleveland in February. It'll be amazing. You only have to be here for 2 weeks. It was not amazing. The people were amazing. The weather sucked. They said, don't worry. It'll only take a little bit of your time. That was not the case at all. They said, we're going to do great things. And that was the only real truth that they told me. And the reality is we did great things, and it has forever changed me as a person. The last 8 months, I've been on a cathartic journey, really realizing that small businesses in America are under attack. 80% of small businesses fail in the first 18 months because they don't have access to capital and they don't know actually how to grow. And the capital markets are frozen for small businesses, and the ability to come in and deploy capital. We deployed $800,000 here in Cleveland. An additional $2 million of investment came in. 50 jobs were created in Gordon Square. But more importantly, the ability to help a small business by taking them on a trip to go meet a national distributor, which hopefully will take Cleveland Bagel Company from selling a truckload of bagels a month to a truckload of bagels a day. And thinking and reminding small businesses that the Colonel had a dream at 65 and he bought a chicken fryer and he created the largest global chicken brand on the planet. Just because you're a small business doesn't mean you need to think small. And so that has become a real passion of mine. And so I'm happy and I'm very thankful to the city and people like Kathy for helping me realize that part of my life. So, without further ado, I am Bonin Bao. I am a host of CNBC Cleveland Hustles. I was formerly the Chief Media and E-commerce Officer for Mondelez International, which is the largest fast food company in the world, $39 billion business. I ran all of our media buying, close to $2 billion. I was the 7th largest buyer in the world, as well as I began to build our billion-dollar e-com business, which I took from $60 million to $265 million. Prior to that, I ran digital globally for PepsiCo, so I know a few things about this connected economy that we're about to speak of. But what I'm going to talk to you about tonight is not Uber, not Airbnb, but what I'm going to have you do is think about how you can apply this mindset to your businesses, to the things that you do on a day-to-day basis. But before I do that, I would be very remiss if I didn't pick up the clicker. Uh-oh, that's my fault. What did I do? I know, I put it in my back pocket. Oh, I got it, sorry. Wow, there you go, thank you. Anyway, so I'd be very remiss if I didn't talk about my book, because I am technically unemployed, and so I do need you to buy my book, because that's the only way I generate revenue today, so please help a brother out. The other thing is I'm very very thankful to MoCA, and as you know, institutions like this rely on donations from people like yourself, so I would hope that you would not just attend events, but you would help to support so they can continue to put events like this on. So, it's interesting, the book is called Text Me, it's the Freakonomics of the Mobile Generation. It looks at the untalked about and undiscussed impact that mobile's had on every single aspect of life. And what we do is I asked 120 people. We from Dick Costello, who's the CEO of Twitter, to Pharrell, to Peter Guber, who's the owner of the Dodgers and the Warriors, and we asked her about parenting, about dating, about religion, about politics, and then I realized that what we had some great findings, 120 people was just not enough. It was just not enough. And so what I decided to do was, originally the book was called Vigilance, and I decided to put my phone number on the cover so I could have the largest social conversation with consumers around how this device is transforming their lives. And I go into the publisher, and it's funny because the publisher said to me, they said, Bonin, we want to transform publishing. I said, great, that's what I want to do. And then I brought this called Vigilance, and then I bring in this title, Text Me, and they go, whoa! We were just joking about transforming publishing. We just want to create a book, just print a book called Vigilance. So I bought the rights back, published this book, and it's the best thing I've ever done. Again, buy it because it's how I make revenue. So, let's begin our journey. If you were a marketing executive in the 1950s and I came into your office and I said, look, I want you to buy this thing called television. You say, get out of my office right now because this thing called radio works really well for me. I don't need your television. But then three bold brands, PDG, Unilever, and Kraft, decided to jump in because what they saw that consumer consumption of TV began to eclipse where media investment was going. As a result, they built competitive advantages that last them for well over 60 years. And I would argue that we're facing the same thing today in the connection economy. Except it's mobility. 23% of mobile is consumed on a mobile device, 23% of media is consumed on a mobile device, but still less than 1% of spending goes into mobile. Which means that the boardrooms of most organizations look something like this, and there's a CEO in the front that says, I think we need a mobile strategy. And then somebody looks up from their device, finally very distracted, and says, I'm sorry, but did you say something? But what it also is an example of society at large. We have become the most distracted society in human history. But the amazing thing about humans, they'll never admit they're distracted. They'll say, no, keep talking to me while I'm texting, because I'm doing something that I call multitasking. You see, I can do that, I'm multitasking. In reality, there are liars. There was a study that was done by the American Psychiatric Association, and what they did, they asked two groups, one to use mobile phones and social media, and they asked the second group to smoke marijuana. There was a 10-point drop in those that use mobile phones and social media, 10-point drop in their IQ, which was twice as much as those that smoke marijuana, which means you're better off being a pothead than pretending that you can multitask. But still, when I present these glaring facts to senior leaders, they ask me the same question. They go, Bonin, is mobile at scale? We're not sure, we know TV works, but is mobile at scale? I said, oh, good question. So I did a little research. It turns out 7 billion people on Earth, 5.1 billion own a cell phone, but only 4.2 billion own a toothbrush. So if toothbrushes are at scale, clearly mobile phones are. It also means there are a billion people in this world that didn't get the importance of hygiene, the text message on the importance of hygiene. They missed that one, because clearly they're not using their toothbrush. So I'm actually updating these stats for a new millennial generation, to see if a younger generation has changed over time. Actually, to see if a younger generation has changed over time. And it turns out they have. They're a little better. 96% on the cell phone, 93% use a toothbrush, but only 90% use deodorant. 10% of them smell. You're probably sitting next to a couple. They're the ones that smell. I love this slide. It says, honk if you love Jesus, text while driving if you want to meet him. Even our religious institutions understand the importance of mobility, but yet still organizations and businesses are slow to adopt. How many people in here have ever thought that their phone was vibrating, and when they looked in their pocket to look at their phone, it wasn't? Raise your hand. That's everybody. Don't be lazy tonight. Everybody's hand goes up on that one. It's not just you. It's a disease. It's called phantom vibration syndrome. And they say that people who experience it have tactile hallucinations, very similar to meth addicts. There's other studies that show using social media and mobile phones are as addictive as cocaine. So some guy in a dark alley going, oh my God, just send me a text message. I just need an emoji. I'm beating for 140 characters. And while we're strung out on this thing called mobility, it's actually having a bigger, profound impact on our society than we're even actually taking note of. So I did a pre-release of the book at South by Southwest just to test the technology. We asked some questions. One of the questions we asked was, what's the last thing you look at before you go to bed? Your cell phone or your partner? 80% of people said their cell phone. One guy was so pissed, he said, Bonin, oh my God, now I'm making a point to look You know, it's also interesting in terms of relationships. In a world of Tinder where the next person to meet is just a swipe right away, kids are having this thing called FOMO, where they don't know if they're missing out on the next person that's so close. At the same time, we talked to a bunch of dudes who said, you know what, we really like it, because now I don't have to try to approach a girl in the bar. Maybe she says no. I said, get out of here. When I was growing up, you had to do hard work to find somebody. And just swipe right. But women said to us, the double opt-in actually makes me feel secure. So now not just the male can say I like you, but I have to say I like them too, and now I have a secure relationship potential. So that was interesting. Parenting is also being changed. We have people, what is the average age to give a kid a cell phone? Anybody? 5, 6, 12, he's in the back, 10. 12 was the average age, right? 12 was the average age, nobody really knows, but 12 was the average age from our study. The interesting thing is that parents talk to us about the death of hierarchy. They no longer hold a hierarchical position because they tell their kid, look, little Johnny, do not do drugs. No weed for you. And little Johnny's like, well, that's weird because your best friend just put up photos of you in college doing bong hits, and you seem to be doing pretty well. So this radical transparency is not just affecting business, but affecting literally the relationships we have with our kids. Other parents talk to us, they said, you know what, we dread now having to talk. I said, what talk, the birds and the bees? I remember that. I said, no. The very first time I have to give my kid a cell phone and tell them how to use it responsibly. I thought that was vastly interesting. We also asked parents, one of the other things we found was the death of rebellion. So when I was young, I used to be able to go, hey mom, I'm going to school. And then I cut school. Now it's like, well, I know you're not at school because I got a GPS in your pocket, so now how do you rebel? Or when I went to college, I talked to my mom, my dad, maybe once a week, right? But now, continual communication. So if this was supposed to be the moment in time when you left your parental unit and you became the adult that you were going to be, does that moment still happen? Does that moment occur? Interesting fact that I found out. 80% of kids, newborn babies, have their photo up on social media within the first hour of their birth. 80%. So dad's standing there, the very first thing the kid sees is dad with a cell phone. Go and smile. The baby's like, big boy, I don't want to smile. Can we do this later? When new technology changes, opportunities will present themselves. So I thought about this. I said, 20%. 20%. So, I give to you, ladies and gentlemen, an invention I call the Nelfie, the newborn selfie. No baby left behind. What's going on here? No baby left behind. We've also turned pee time into me time. I asked people what's the one biggest behavior you want to stop. 75% said, I want to stop taking you to the bathroom with me. I said, you know what? I want you to stop telling me you're taking you to the bathroom with you. I'm a perfect stranger. And I'm responding from the stall right now, so let's just focus. A guy told me a story about how he lies to his friends at dinner so he can go and he tells me he has to go to the bathroom so he can check Instagram and Facebook. I said, first of all, get better friends. I don't lie to my friends, but it's actually become a social norm. And now it's become impolite to check in front of people. So now we have to create new behaviors where we lie to our friends. These behavioral changes are really transforming us in ways that we've never really thought. So, again, opportunity. Charging stations installed. Who's with me? A big idea. Uber of ideas right here, Dad. Don't miss out on the boat. Don't miss out. Any investors, find me afterwards. What I began to realize what's interesting is that the world changes so rapidly, but yet organizations, businesses, small and large, don't actually move as fast as technology changes. But the one space that does is the technology industry. How can we take what we can learn from the technology industry and apply that kind of thinking to our businesses? And I'm going to show you an example. Messaging. We all talk about mobile, but the reality is messaging is the next frontier. In 2011, there was one messaging app in the top 10 downloaded apps. Now in 2016, 6 and soon to be 7 with Snapchat of the top 10 downloaded apps in the world are messaging apps. 4 billion consumers are using messaging. This is where consumers' attention are. As a small business owner, think about the opportunity, or a business in general, to be able to truly have a direct connection with your consumer over messaging. Just think about your own life. Most of the relationships that you care about, your family, your loved ones, your friends, your true business partners, you spend time texting with them. That is where the world is, but yet most organizations haven't taken advantage of that. What's interesting is that tech companies are able to sense these consumer trends, and they actually are able to sense them so much that they're able to say, oh, we think this is such a big trend that it could be a unicorn, a billion-dollar business. And it's true that when they identify unicorns, they tend to do pretty well. $1.3 trillion is what 50 of the top unicorns are valued at. But the also ugly reality is that most of these businesses actually fail. So here's Guild sold for $250,000. In reality, only 25% of the ideas that they've identified as potential billion-dollar businesses actually succeed. And so what I begin to think is, can existing businesses help emerging businesses by partnering and creating faster growing, in my case I deal with a lot larger organizations, but faster growing billion-dollar businesses, which I call dragons, or faster growing businesses, dragons. Can you accelerate growth with this unique partnership between technology and organizations like how many of you sit in? And so, what I looked at is, can large organizations breed dragons, but in general, can organizations breed dragons? So, a dragon to me is a startup-minded business that uses the strength of its parent company, its existing company, whether small or large, to create industry-disrupting models that moves faster, is stronger, scaled across an organization. Imagine if Hilton had created Airbnb. Imagine if Kodak had created Instagram. Think about how faster those could have been. Imagine if small businesses had created technology, how faster they could grow. And so, I looked, and it turns out there are actual models in the tech space. So, Apple used to be a hardware company, and now $20 billion in services. Amazon used to be a book company, now $7.8 billion. Google had to create a whole new company name called Alphabet. We are the Alphabet, to represent their billion-dollar businesses. And so, I asked, and we'll talk about how to apply this to you, can a company like Mondelez? And so I created a model, and the model is, how do you identify, how do you hatch dragons, how do you identify opportunities to help your business grow? How do you raise those dragons so they don't get killed? The challenge is most good ideas come into an organization, you're like, no, kill this good idea, no, kill it. And ideas get killed because you want to do what you're always used to doing, what's always worked. So you get very afraid to actually do something different. And the last thing is, how do you ride those things into the potentiality that they actually have in front of you? So with every great model, you need good Photoshop work. Yes. Soak that in, people. That's an important slide. So how do you hatch dragons? Well, first I think it's about creating a model for actually sensing them. One of the things that Kathy mentioned was we created, large organizations are tough, but small organizations as well. We created a model for where we actually helped our employees get to know what the new technology is. If you think about it, most challenges businesses have is that they're not actually using the new technology. Our thing was called Mobile Futures. It was an accelerator where we did an open call to startups to partner with our brands. We had, here's an example, we launched it in 5 different countries. I also did PEP 10, which was the earlier version, but I fixed it. PEP 10 was actually a fail, although we launched it in 9 countries, which is what large organizations do. They go, oh, it's a failure? Let's launch more of it. Come on, keep going. Maybe we'll force it to win. No, it was a failure because it didn't accomplish exactly what I wanted to, but it was still a success. Anyway, thank you. So the point here, though, was we took our marketers, and what we changed about this is not only did we do an open call for technology, which I think a lot of small businesses say, who are the tech companies that are sitting in Cleveland? Who are sitting with Jumpstart? How do I create a day for me to go see emerging technology in Jumpstart that might fit into my business? I think that you're sitting, Jumpstart Cleveland is huge, one of the biggest accelerators in the country. And what we did was we actually wanted to change the mindset of our marketers. So we actually had our marketers go and work for the startup. Think about taking one of your people and having them go and work for a startup to understand how the people think drastically different. So here's the immersion days. Every single one of them, they came back and they said the same thing. They said, Bonnet, should we work for a startup? I said, no, you should not, because if our top marketers quit, I'll be fired. I like my job. We need to focus, people. We really need some focus here. I said, but more importantly, think about taking what you've learned there and being able to apply it to an existing business, to existing brands, to an organization that's already running. What could you accomplish? And when I looked at all the marketing plans from anybody who's been through the program, they're transformative. The other thing I would offer you to think about is reverse mentorship. So as senior leaders of your organizations or people working in your senior people working in your organization, how do you let the younger generation actually show you where the connection economy is going? Okay, so second piece. Not as good as the first, I know. The laughs are never as big. Anyway, raising dragons. How do you raise them? So one, I think it starts with culture. Every organization has a culture, no matter how small or how big. I was lucky that our culture, our CMO said to us, we want you to create marketing that's fearless. We want you to do things that nobody's ever done. So our culture allowed us to create great marketing campaigns. So think about the culture inside your organization. What do you have to do to inspire your people to think different, to go after new things, to truly try? Everybody says, I want you to be innovative, but very few organizations actually create the systems and the culture for people to actually, truly be innovative. And when you do that, you get great things like this piece of work I'm going to show now.
parents in an ad for
Okay, this is the real video now. Follow.
If I had to describe my parents, my dad would be like the smart one and everything. And then my papa would be, he's a funny one.
It's just me and him. We kind of take it as, all right, this is all we got. This is our team right here, and nothing's gonna break this team up.
American families have changed,
Sometimes we get looks just from being a mixed family.
and while they may look different, they're still as wholesome as ever. And who better to say this than the beloved brand American families grew up with?
Just from being a mixed family.
Honey Maid. Everyday wholesome snacks for every wholesome family.
This campaign was the first time an American brand had so clearly stood up for all families,
This is wholesome.
and the nation took notice.
Honey Maid featuring both interracial and gay parents in an ad for graham crackers that's been viewed more than 5 million times.
Honey Maid's hashtag, this is wholesome on fire.
But unfortunately, a lot of people didn't agree with our message. We were threatened with a boycott. We were called sinful.
Even the right-wing conservative group 1 Million Moms calling the ad a, quote, attempt to normalize sin.
But instead of backing down, we asked two artists to take every negative tweet, comment, and post, print them out, roll them up, and turn hate into love. And the best part was all the positive messages we received. Over 10 times as many. With over 270,000 shares on social media, this simple video earned over 250 million impressions from social and PR alone. And for the week it launched, it was the most shared commercial in the world. Perhaps a chart showing Google searches for Honey Maid over the last 10 years says it best. Honey Maid. In less than 1 month, it went from a cracker people love to a brand people love.
The graham cracker, people. It's literally a graham cracker. Everybody's like, oh, that's amazing. The graham cracker. But what's amazing about that story for me is there was a guy named Gary Oshitskin who was the brand manager of that. And what he said, you can imagine, seeing leadership was like, whoa, there's a little too much for us. We're not sure we're ready to go there. He said, well, look, the reality is there's a business opportunity. The majority of families in the U.S. are actually not quote-unquote wholesome families, so there's a huge market. And more importantly, not more important, but as important to me, is that I actually come from a non-wholesome family. It was in a same-sex relationship. And he said, I believe that this piece of work is something that we should stand behind. To the credit of our senior leadership, to our culture, they would be there. Honey Maid was on fire. We've never grown Honey Maid as big as that, ever, in the history of a graham cracker. So the ability to have culture really dictate and help shape what you're able to accomplish as an organization is huge. The last piece, sorry, you don't want to watch again? Sorry. So the ability to have culture clearly.
In order to propel
The last
your
piece is we invest
career,
in training
you
and
have
education.
got to
There's a
be
program.
clear
Oh, we
on
do.
what
I
you
run that.
bring and what you need.
What do you feel are things that connect, and what do you...
So I'll set it up. I should probably do this. So this is so first of all, talent will be the single biggest determinant of growth by 2030 according to Bain Capital. Bigger than energy, bigger than infrastructure, and most of us actually don't train the next generation of leaders. We actually don't inspire our people to be the most talented that they can possibly be. And so what I did was I created an event called Brand View, which is really, we ask people, most people are more deliberate about the products and services they sell than they are about their own career. And the bottom line is, you want people who are excelling through your organization. I tell people, you want to generate the next generation of rock stars. You want rock stars because you can't wake up in the morning and say, you know what, I want to be a rock star. Let me get a hit album. No, you actually have to be able to play an instrument, first of all, so you have to have some level of talent. And then you actually have to be able to, the most important thing is you have to be able to create hits. Things that move culture forward. So in your organization, you have to be able to create wins. You want people who can move the momentum of your organization forward, grow your organization. You want to generate rock stars. And so what we do is we created a 2-day event where we ask people to think about their career. We help them think about innovation. We help them think about how to become rock stars in the organization, how to maneuver through the organization, how to think differently about investment. You don't always need big budgets to accomplish great things, and I'll show some examples. So here is the video of Brand New.
in order to propel your career, you have got to be clear on what you bring and what you need.
What do you feel are things that connect, and what do you feel are things that are still a little bit of a challenge or education needed for a large organization to fully grasp on how innovation and being sort of thinking like in an entrepreneurial way could actually help them move forward.
But I really feel like Randy was giving me tools I need to learn how to grow my career within the organization.
It's a great way to think about how to manage people. How do you keep them engaged by giving them more and more opportunities to develop their strengths? How do you divvy up the work that needs to be done in a way that makes sense based on the strengths on your team?
The biggest takeaways for me right now have been some panel discussions from industry leaders.
It's interesting, people have a view of basically leaders as pound the desk. And for me, I think if you have a combination of curiosity and humility, curiosity to ask why and take risks, humility to actually listen to other people and collect the best information, you need to have a certain amount of risk-taking and boldness to basically make moves.
If you just think, if I talk to my direct reports or my manager talks to me about my strengths and how to use my strengths, that alone increases engagement. So this has a profound effect on your company's profitability and your productivity.
Every organization wants to be faster. When push comes to shove, there's a nervousness with speed. We need to compel the organization to be able to say, I want to be like that person because they just took the risk and they did something great. So I want to be more comfortable taking the risks myself.
But being able to think about the principles and start to create change within the organizations that we're in.
It's okay if my voice is different from some of the guys in the room, or even some of the women in the room, but finding my voice the right way is what's important. I knew the business super well. I knew the data, I knew the facts, so when I was sharing my voice, it was grounded in knowledge. It wasn't just me spouting things off. There's nothing worse than people just spouting things off. So know your stuff, know your facts, know your consumer, know the business, know the data, form an opinion, and then you share it however's comfortable for you, and hopefully your corporate environment supports that.
Like think of my overall career and my overall brand, like great tips that I would always grow and push yourself.
It's one of the proudest things that I am able to be a part of. When people go through those Tuesdays, they've truly been transformed as executives, as people who work inside your organization. So our next brand new is actually December 12th. If anybody's interested, you can find it online. I am going to wrap up pretty quickly, so I'm going to skip a couple things and go straight to the next piece of Photoshop work, Riding Dragons. How do you actually turn these things into big ideas, and how small ideas can even affect a large organization like ours? So we started off, I remember when I first came into Kraft, they said, we want you to work on Oreo. I said, Oreo, that doesn't mean anything to me. It's meaningless. I'm not 8 to 12, and I don't own 8 to 12-year-olds. You can own them, right? I don't own any of those things. The communication hadn't changed in 50 years. It was Oreo, twist like a dunk, mom and kid, dad and kid, if you really think back. And this is 4 or 5 years ago. So it was his 100th anniversary. So we decided to launch a thing called Daily Twist, where for 100 days we created a piece of communication that was on white that basically showed whether it was Elvis or whether it was moon landing, that replicated culture through the eyes of an Oreo. The very first one was the Pride Cookie. This was the #1 liked post at that time in its history. Then we launched a thing called Dunk in the Dark. When the lights went off in the Super Bowl, we actually 4 minutes later sent out a tweet. All of this gave us the confidence to begin to transform the brand into something different. We don't have time to play the new Oreo spot, but what I am going to do is ask you to play. So after we created a new campaign, we then decided that we were going to go one step further. And I am going to play this. My last video is the trending vending, where we actually created a 3D printed Oreo and transformed it. The business card.
South by Southwest Interactive in Austin, Texas. We invited festival goers to the Trending Vending Lounge to participate in an experiment. What would happen if your Oreo cookie joined the social network? Our prototype vending machines take what's trending on Twitter and turns those trends into custom Oreos. screens, users scroll through a list of trending topics, each related to a particular flavor combination and pattern. Advanced algorithms translate the tweets into custom cookies. In all, there are about 10,000 possible combinations. Users can also mash up two trends to further customize their experience. The resulting cookie combines elements of the two original trends. Once the user hits Make Cookie, the real magic happens. Using some repurposed 3D printing technology and a pneumatic pump system, we've enabled festival attendees to watch as their custom cookie is robotically printed and assembled.
Creating the first ever custom product and ultimately what became a rallying cry for us to create $1 billion business. And we created a custom Oreo product last Christmas where you can go online, color in every aspect of the pack, choose from different words, but most importantly, you could write a message where it says happy holidays. You could write your own message. People said, honey, will you marry me? One guy said, I hope not a guy, but a woman said, it's a boy. It was like, do not deliver that to the wrong person. Ah, what do you mean it's a boy? We weren't trying. But ultimately, a small Facebook post led to the transformation of a $4 billion business and then building a viewpoint to another $1 billion business. And so my point is as you embrace the connected economy, what it can unlock for your businesses, for your careers, and ultimately, a lot of times for your life, is tremendous. And that's why it's become such a huge part of mine. So, ladies and gentlemen, without further ado, that is From Unicorns to Dragons. We will move on to Cleveland Hustles with Kathy Beauty and myself, I guess. Thank you, guys. You guys will say there's free alcohol tomorrow.
Did I tell you he was enthusiastic?
A little bit.
This is what kept us going on the show. I tell you, I loved when I was filming with Bonin because he kept me awake. I learned from him and everything. We're gonna start off our discussion of further topics that are related to business first, and then we'll open up to Q&A for everyone. I know that you're glad that I got the most important Q&A question out of the way at the beginning.
Yes, I am.
Who your favorite investor to work with was.
Yeah, because I had to think about it.
Let's talk about how you became engaged in the digital media world. How did this passion and curiosity manifest?
You know, I got really lucky. I was really young, and you know, as like I think a lot of young people, I got a Commodore 64 from my dad. Learned how to kind of program in BASIC, and then my mom bought me a Mac 512K, the first Mac, and that kind of just started my passion with technology. And then I learned how to program at like 12, and when I went to college, I started a web company with my college roommate. We're still in business together today, not in that company, but we sold that. We did the first Jordache website. I can still hear it in the back of my mind, the Jordache look, working, playing. I'm like, no, get out of my head, that's the worst. And then we did the Soccer Hall of Fame website, and when I actually went to school for political science and physics, and I was going to be an engineering lawyer, and then I fell in love with political philosophy, and I was going to go do a doctorate at Columbia in political philosophy, but I came out, and that summer, I wanted to just make some money, and started freelance programming, and it was the .com, it was 99, and it was like shrimp boats, and like vodka fountains, and parties. I was like, woo, this is amazing, let's do that. And I got lucky, and I ended up at a small, what was then actually the largest independent public relations agency, and they wanted to build a digital shop, and I met this guy, Scott Schneider, who they brought in, and we both co-founded, and he never wanted to travel because he had kids and family, so I ended up opening up our San Francisco office. I used to have to lie about my age because I was so young. Our San Francisco office, our Asia, our Europe office, and I got to work across a ton of different clients, and we fell in love, and then I left there, and I built a digital practice at IPG under Weber Shandwick, which is the largest PR agency in the world, and then I went to PepsiCo, and I came to the movies. So it's always been a passion since I was young.
What do you think is the next big iteration in connection economics?
Messaging. So, were you watching the same presentation I was doing?
Would you elaborate?
Tom, don't get mad, I'm sorry. No, I definitely think messaging. I think that the promise of social's huge, and it moves businesses, it drives my personal business, drives businesses. But the promise of social was that we were going to have one-on-one relationships with consumers. And the reality is you're still broadcasting to consumers. So it's still pretty much television. If you actually talk to Facebook, they'll call it television. So they try to sell it as one of the largest buyers of Facebook. And I used to get pissed that they would say that because I didn't wake up every morning to just do television again. Although I bought it, we wanted to really have a direct connection with consumers. Messaging is that platform. And what I've experienced in texting with people, you know, first of all, it's so private. You know, it's really weirdly private. And now I'm having this private discussion. These people actually, you know, they know me when I run into the places. They're like, hey, I know them. You know, we had like a discussion, and I've done almost 7,000 people. So I believe that as a business owner, if you're not thinking about a strategy for messaging, you're crazy. Because I want to see every small business have a customer come in and say, hey, you know what, just give us your phone number, and we'll text you when we have, you know, a new product, or we'll text you when we, you know, and I just think that one-to-one relationship is going to transform how businesses grow. Now, you have to be careful with it because, you know, you could be texting with your daughter's not responding, and then Oreo's like, hey, want to buy Oreo 4 Ys, 3 smiley faces. You're like, no, I want to find my daughter, leave me alone, Oreo. So we're going to have to figure out what that relationship is, but I especially think for small and mid-sized businesses, the impact that it will have on your business is going to be huge. And there's a ton of platforms out there. You can watch, you know, I have a YouTube channel, I have a Facebook channel. I talk about a lot of the platforms and a lot of the strategies that I think are going to help small business. So I think that that's revolutionary. I think there's a lot of conversation on VR, which is interesting to me, but really what I care about is growing businesses quickly, and I think that's going to help.
Here's a question for my husband, Tom.
Wait a second.
Since you called
it's my time now.
It's for Bonin, but it applies to Tom. What does the connection economy mean to people sitting in this room who are in manufacturing?
Tom? I think that it's a whole new world of capability that will be built around real-time organizations. So the ability to manufacture at pace in custom, I think is going to transform manufacturing. I look, you know, it was interesting taking on a P&L role, taking on, you know, our e-com business really made me look at the guts of the business, supply chain, manufacturing. So, you know, we created a custom Oreo. Everybody said it couldn't be done. We were in this meeting, the head of supply chain was there, he was on our side, but everybody was like, no, it can't be done. And, you know, he said, look, there are 1,000 reasons why people can say no. I want to know how it can be done. And if you don't believe it can, leave the room. Everybody left the room except 6 people. The person who was on my team was a 26-year-old young girl who ran the project with 6 people. And in 2 months, we created a factory right outside of Milwaukee that actually created, for the first direct-to-consumer product that in a 103-year history of a company that we had ever shipped. In 2 months, by the way. And so I think when you begin to look at now a consumer, and we were selling that for 5x. 5x we were paying for, all we were doing was overwrapping an existing Oreo pack, and we were paying 5 times. I was like, you got you. But the ability, anybody bought it, sorry. No, and then when we rolled it out in China across Alibaba, it was a machine, dude, it's a machine. And what you begin to realize is that when you live in a world of mass, and you begin to transition to a world of custom and personalization, manufacturing has to figure out how to change that. And also, consumers begin to want, why do you think Dollar Shave Club is winning? You know, they took 12% market share from P&G, who's been around forever, by the way. And so, and then Unilever bought it for $1 billion. And by the way, they bought, P&G bought Gillette for $40 billion. And, you know, and these guys bought $1 billion and got 12% market share. But, and when you look at the supply chains of Amazon or the manufacturing of like Nature Box, these guys are agile manufacturers, and that's what the world's going to look like. And that is because consumers want to be able to create experiences right from this device and then have the product show up at their door.
As an honorary Clevelander, I have to put that before I ask you this question.
I was pissed, man. I was like, Indians, come on, let's do this. We need a two-peat.
How do you think Cleveland markets compare to the rest of the world, in your opinion?
Can I say one other thing? I was at Game 7. That is the worst experience on the planet. Warrior fans were like, it was just nothing but Warrior fans, and me and like 4 people were like, don't kill us, please don't kill us. But then, once they won, all of the Cleveland fans were on the floor, and they were like, get out. And the Cleveland fans were like, 54 years, dude, we're not going anywhere, we're staying right here in Warrior Stadium. It was pretty amazing. So, yes, I thought it was pretty spectacular. They were like, no. And I think that kind of speaks to Cleveland in general. I think that the show is aptly named Cleveland Hustle, but I think more interesting about what I've experienced in Cleveland is the grit, the determination, and you know, people care. And what's more interesting is that all the investors that we worked with, it wasn't about reaping cash benefits. Now, we wanted to make our money back, but we also wanted to have dramatic impact in the community. And when you talk to somebody like, Jesus Christ, it's gonna kill me. I can't think of your, Ann, thank you.
Ann Hartnett Groundswell.
Yeah, Ann Hartnett Groundswell. Look it up, join it. When you talk to somebody like Ann, that's all she cares about. She's so relentless around how do I, and you know, we spent a lot of time just talking separate of that business, and that's what she wants to dedicate her life to, is really revitalizing neighborhoods. And I found that there were so many people here. Look, I live in New York. People are like, revitalize the neighborhood. Get out of my way, silly. We don't need neighborhoods. We need more cash and finances. So I just felt that I think the Cleveland market is a great market. I think folks like Jumpstart, I've never seen anything like Jumpstart. Ray really should be commended for what he's done. I mean, 50,000 new tech jobs are going to be put here in the next 15 years from the work that he's doing. That's pretty impressive stuff, man. And to build a tech hub in, look, it's Cleveland. It's not like San Francisco or not even, you know, to create that here just speaks to the power of the people in the city, really.
It's nice to hear. Now, while you were filming, let me get off Cleveland Hustles, but while you were filming, you were involved in a fascinating project. You didn't tell us about till you came back, having to do with a parachuteless jump from how many feet? Tell us about that.
So I was going to show the video, but we ran out of time. Maybe we'll show it right before we end. So it's interesting. One of the things I was going to show is that the most important thing is to not let ideas die. Good ideas, if you know in your heart that it's a good idea, don't let that idea die. 3 years ago, a guy came to me at Adweek, Jimmy Smith, who's been texting me like crazy just now. And he said, look, I've got this guy who's going to jump out of an airplane, no parachute, no wingsuit, he's going to land safely on the ground. Do you want to do it? I was like, yes, I want to do that, definitely. I want to do that. Let's do that thing. That's going to be amazing. I thought it was going to be the largest television event of the year, which it ended up becoming. I remember going to the organization saying, here's the thing, it's going to be amazing. And they were like, we're not doing that, sorry. Nope, not on our watch, not on our watch. And I spent 3 years moving it through the organization. And finally it happened. The guy jumped from 25,000 feet. He landed on a 100 by 100 foot net that was suspended about 100, yeah, there you go. About 100, you don't have to play it now, but there you can see the net at the bottom. Well, you can't really see it, he's 25,000 feet up. But he couldn't even see the net when he first jumped out of the plane. And at 15,000 feet, so you're sitting here, he jumps. First of all, Wednesday night, this was on a Saturday. Wednesday night I get a phone call from Laura Henderson, who's running it. She was running media monetization for me, and this was a project that we actually made money on. On 2 hours of television, we actually made money. Very few advertisers on the planet can do that. And I made cold hard cash. Fox paid us for the content, we underwrote it. And that was kind of a model. Media monetization wanted to change the way media investments happen. We want to be a revenue center versus a cost center, and be a media investor versus just a buyer. So that was a big thing that we were going after. But so he jumps out at 25,000. So sorry, Wednesday night I get a call. She tears. She's like, SAG has shut down the operation. They're not going to let us jump. They're saying the jump is unsafe. Now we had the best people on the planet doing this thing. I mean, like literally, I didn't want people to die. Are you kidding me? Not on my watch. That would have been rough. I'd be like, thing is, we thought it was a good idea. Anyway, so now I have to spend the next 4 days, 3 days, whatever, trying to get as high up in SAG as I can. Finally, we got there, and literally up to the last hour, right as he took off, we got clearance that he could jump without the parachute. He was going to do it anyway, because he had been training. He did 98 test jumps where he would jump over the net, and he would pull the chute right before he got past 1,000 feet. So he jumps out of the plane at 25,000 feet. He's flying, now they hit terminal velocity at about 15,000 feet, and he's with his 4 other jumpers, and then they take his oxygen tank, and they pull the chute. All of a sudden, you see this guy come racing, like a human, come racing to Earth. And everybody in the stands, there were 200 people in the stands, grabbing each other. This guy is like, and now, before he hits the net, because he can't land on the net like this, because he'll sandwich himself, he now has to flip over in midair. First of all, he has to be guiding his body the whole way down. And then he has to flip over and land backwards in the net. And when this guy landed, the crowd, they were like, ah! His mom had to leave. She couldn't even sit and watch it. She went to the trailer and she was like crying. I've never seen anything like this. But and it's funny because everybody at work was like, we knew it was a big idea when we saw it. When we first saw it, we knew this was going to be a success. That's why we greenlit it on it. And I was like, strange, because that's not what I remember. So I guess that's the job. But my point there, and what I was going to show, my point there is that don't let good ideas die. And that's what happens so much. Just be relentless, especially if you know in your heart. And that's what changes businesses, is that you believe in something and you go after it and you push, no matter how many people say no. Because the funny thing is, when everybody says yes, I know it's not a big idea. But when everybody says no, then it's not. So.
Okay, I'm gonna ask one more question before we open it up to the audience. Now, with Cleveland Hustles, what will be your involvement in any future shows? Do you think Cleveland got it right? And what did that experience have on you, besides meeting me?
It was the everyday Kathy, sorry, Tom. It's a Hollywood thing, you gotta understand that. Did we get it right? Look, we put jobs. Cleveland Bagel Company, have you been by that storefront? I mean, when I looked at that brown building, did we get it right? We crushed it. Are you kidding me? That thing is like an icon for the city, dude. I really, really think we got it so right. And even more importantly is that the friendships that I've made, not just from the investors, but from the companies and the entrepreneurs, and how much, the bagel guys cried. Anne's a tougher cookie, but there were days she told me that she was crying a little bit, but we made people's dreams, so did we get it right? Yeah, we got it so right. What I would have loved to do more, we were creating the show as we were going, so having one investor talk to the other company, that wasn't even part of the show. I just said, hey, you know what? Let's grab Kumar and let's go meet up with Shireen and help Shireen with her PowerPoint. And that was how that whole investor helping other business was literally created, that was a very touching, the Shireen scene for me, which you guys don't get to see all of it, was probably one of the most touching scenes that I was a part of in that whole show. But, and I'm just not saying that because she's here, but it began to tell, again, this is my first real TV. But you begin to see what this thing can be, and molding this thing in the moment. And now Kumar comes in and you can see Shireen lighting up, and she comes up with this name, Torch Lost. And what's crazy is we were in the car driving, and Kumar looked at the torch on the stadium and said, Torch is interesting. He didn't even say that word to her, she came up with it. And I'm just like, oh, this is kismet, like this is what's happening here. And it was really, and then, what I would change, because then I started saying, okay, let me see if I can get national distribution deals. What I would change, and what I think we will in season 2, is an infrastructure underneath me that could unlock my network. So we should have lined up 7 meetings for Anne, We should have had, I tried to get her with the Soul Cycle folks, tried to get her with Equinox, and they had just bought something, and it was...
We're not done with you yet, so you're not done yet.
I know, but that's my point. I would have done that because what I really want to see is a real success story, like an accelerated growth success story on the other side. We have that in some cases, but if there was more of an infrastructure underneath it, that's what I keep telling them, I can't do it alone. So that's the only thing I would change, but I think we got it right. We created a new model, and we created it on the blood, sweat, and tears in the back, and the love and the passion of Cleveland. So, yeah, we got it right, we crushed it.
Well, thank you, Bonin. I'm going to open up the floor now if there's anybody that wants to ask a question. Bonin?
We're giving away free books. No, I don't know if that's true.
Oh, we actually are raffling off a book at the membership table. And what's the other book, Arlene? How are we raffling off the other one? Just Bonin's book?
Okay. First question gets maybe a book. Go ahead, behind you.
So, for those of us who have small businesses, not big budgets.
You don't have $1 billion marketing budget?
I don't.
Okay.
I don't, a little less. So how do brainstorming, marketing meetings start for viral, out-of-the-box type ideas?
Go ahead, behind you. It's like, how does magic happen? I think it starts with understanding, what's the product? What's your business?
B2B.
What?
B2B.
B2B, employee what?
Discount program.
Employee discount program. So I think it starts with, first of all, I love B2B. B2B is the most undisrupted using digital, I think, of any of the businesses. I think it starts with really understanding what is the unique proposition, and this is what I talk to small business about all the time. The difference between how we operate in a large business and how small businesses operate is that we are so maniacal about figuring out what is the true customer proposition. What is the simplest thing that we are offering the customer that can potentially get really big? And so I think it starts off with understanding what is the offering and why does the customer want it? What's unique about it? And then for virality is hard, but I think that is around creating humor or creating disgust or creating something that people have never seen before. Like dropping a guy out of an airplane, it's never been done before, And so people stuck and watched 2 hours of television with Stride logos all over it. But at the same time, I took a silly little thing called Nilla wafers. and we took Facebook, and what we started doing, and I think a lot of people don't leverage the power of Facebook, what we started, and by the way, the targeting capability of Facebook, taking your list that you have right now for employees and targeting them using Facebook, even though they're not in a business-to-business setting, they're still the same people. What we did was we said, okay, we're gonna take 5 different types of campaigns. Vanilla Wafer, so it was called an entrepreneurial brand, which basically means you got no money, good luck, be entrepreneurial. What we did was we took 5 different ad campaigns, and we just, simple, not ad campaigns, but simple images, Facebook posts, 5 different types, and we began to test them with the community. At the same time, what we did was we did analysis on who's actually buying Nilla, so for you, who's actual customer, and then we started buying targeted ads on Facebook, very, very targeted ads on Facebook, and we grew that community. I think we spent total, and I don't know if this sounds big to you, but $120,000. But what we did was we grew that to about 300,000 people. And then as the 5 pieces of work, people clicked more, we would kill the ones that didn't get a lot, and we would increase the ones that did. And we ended up on a campaign called Momisms. You can look it up, Momisms on Nilla. Gary Vaynerchuk was part of it, actually. And that was like, good families are like fudge filled with lots of nuts. And then there was another one like good moms turn off good moms let you lick the beaters, great moms turn them off, or something like that. And then, you want breakfast in bed, sleep in the kitchen, And it began to take shape of the actual buyer because we were letting the consumer tell us what they actually wanted to engage with. And as a result, we lifted, that's a much bigger business, but I think it's a $300 million business, but we lifted that business with $120,000, almost 10%, just using Facebook. And so I think that, so to answer your question and shut up, I think what's the proposition that you're really offering? We can talk after, I know you know my friend Bill. What's the proposition you're offering? How do you then create something that virality, again, is laughter, disgust, never seen before around it. And then the other piece is how do you use those channels like a Facebook to really spend your money so surgically and wisely that you're actually showing conversion?
One more question?
Hello, thank you. I actually just wanted a free book, but I didn't get the first question in.
At least you're honest.
No, I'm wondering what you would recommend for sustaining some of the practices that you've introduced with Cleveland Hustle, like you mentioned, making connections and connecting people. I'm at the college level, but on a community, what can we do as citizens to sustain these connections that you're introducing?
So one of the things I've been talking about and I really want to do is an event called Impact. So, again, small businesses fail because they don't have access to networks that can help them grow. Networkers, people and they don't have capital. And so how do we create an event where we invite 2,000 small businesses across Ohio, Impact, to just come together, and then so I've been presenting this, and a lot of people come up and say, hey, I have services to small business that we're even happy to give away, or I do access to lending and capital at not aggressive rates, at rates that are actually, so how do we begin to bring the resources that small businesses need together in one place, in one event, and then invite small businesses, and then I think also invite business leaders from the community. My feeling is that big business, or business needs to give back to business. And I think primarily big business needs to give back. But there's a moment in time where I think as a big business leader, you realize that selling another Oreo is great, but helping change a person's life is so much more engaging. And I think you will be surprised at Procter & Gamble coming out to an event. Mark Pritchard, or all these. And so that's what I think is they need mentorship and they need capital. And so if you can create something that can bring those 3 things together, then I think you have something powerful that can really have impact in cities, not just Cleveland, but across the world personally. So,
Okay, I want to thank Monin for agreeing to come speak to us and share his insights so very fast.
Thank you, Cleveland!
Our sponsors for this evening, Dave, thank you so much. Thanks to the MOCA staff, Arlene Watson, Colleen Kelly, Peter Vertis, Jill Snyder, Steve Washington, and the Business Innovative Committee who brought this idea to fruition. I'm proud to be part of MOCA. Yes, I'm proud to be part of MOCA. I'm proud to be a Clevelander. And I'm proud to have gotten to know Bonin as a new friend and colleague. So right now, please help me in thanking Bonin again with another wave of applause. And don't forget his books available online.
And I'm unemployed for Cleveland. And I'm from Cleveland.
Thank you, Bonin. Thank you, Kathy. Thank you all for coming tonight. And if you have not come to MOCA before, please come back. We have an amazing exhibition upstairs, and we have a few programs coming up in the next month or so, starting a panel discussion that will be focused on the exhibition upstairs. On this coming Friday, we have Spectacle, which is local artisans that will be displaying and shopping for your purchase different art and craft and jewelry and so on that they'll have for sale. It's going to be a fun evening, both Friday and Saturday. And then coming up in January when we open our new season, our opening night is on January 27th, and we'll have Adam Pendleton, who is an artist that will be featuring his work. It's a traveling exhibition, his first solo exhibition in the U.S., so we're really excited to have him. Please come back. It's a lot of fun here to see the exhibitions. We have a really nice variety of work that you can look at, as well as the programs that go along with it. Thank you all again. My name is Arlene Watson, and I am happy to have had Bonin and Kathy here tonight.